tour in Brazil, so it's a little late there for him. But this is my good friend Bobby Scott Broussard in Louisiana. Hello,
yes,
Bobby.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm good. It's been a really long time since we last sat down and chatted, but before we started rolling with the show, we were talking about some fun stuff that we did. So, and like I was explaining, the show is all about finding out what's going on. So, you had mentioned that you're playing with some guys. Can you tell me a bit about the players that you were working with when we first met?
Oh, that would have been Sherman Robertson from he was originally from Cecilia, Louisiana, but he moved to Houston when he was young, I think very young, and started to play with a guy named Peppermint Harris, and he played with the Drifters, and he did a lot of backup stuff too. And he was a great, you remember him, he was a great blues man. You know, I just met up with him with playing with Chubby Carey. I met up with him in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and I thought he was terrific, man. I wanted to try to upscale and play blues. You know, that was my love. So I started to play. We got together and he had me play rhythm for him. And man, we used to go to Canada. You know that fairly regular, man. We'd go a month at a time. We'd go up there we'd go from Vancouver to Thunder Bay. I mean, we'd go to Halifax, you know, all over the place. Sherman drug me around with him a long time, and I learned a lot from playing with him, man. Remember how he kind of played like Stevie Ray, he sang like Robert Cray, man. It was crazy. You know, he had a great voice.
He's very powerful.
About 3 or 4 years ago, I think he just passed away. Maybe 5 years ago now. He had a couple of strokes, and he wasn't really communicating with anybody. I'd heard he had strokes. I tried to call him and talk to him, but he never answered his phone. But Sherman was the one, man. Where he really kind of got his start was playing with Clifton Chenier after I'm not sure what happened with Lil Buck. Maybe he got sick or something, but for a while, or he just went on his own maybe, but for a while Sherman played with Clifton when Clifton was older. You know, he was kind of getting sick too. But we had some great times. Sherman brought me overseas for the first time. He brought me to Vredenburg, Utrecht, Holland, to the Blues Estafette when I was like 21 years old, man. I met up with Henry Gray and, oh my God, Snooks Eaglin, Warren Storm, all kind of people some people from Louisiana too. Carol Fran and Clarence Holloman were there. And it added some weight, you know, to me, at least for blues. Made me play. He used to say something funny. Speaking of Canada and my Canadian friends, and not just Canada, but he used to, when I would learn the licks and stuff from him, he would say, man, you know, keep that to yourself, man. You know, you don't go out and do these jams and show all these, all these kids of your stuff. And I'd say, man, because it's my stuff. He'd say it was fattening frogs for snakes. You know, I'm fattening frogs for snakes. I said, man, come on, Sherman, they're gonna get it anyway. You know.
Yeah, there's been a lot of players that have I've heard that similar stories from Eddie Van Halen when he used to play. He played for a long time with his back to the audience because he didn't want all the kids to know what he was doing.
I never heard that.
Yeah, so it's I would say a lot of these players that you were meeting, like Snooks Eaglin and them, that was a pretty big influence on your playing too, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, through him, yeah, different. Because, I mean, he knew everybody. I mean, not long after B.B. King opened his club in Memphis, somehow Sherman, we ended up with the gig there like several times. We must have went there three or four times. And, you know, I couldn't believe one day, wow, I'm on Beale Street, man. I'm going to play B.B. King's club. Well, it got better than that, man, because on the opposite corner, I was just kind of walking around sightseeing before we were, going to set up and everything. And there was a little club kind of cat a corner from B.B. King's called Rum Boogie Cafe. You might have heard of it. It's probably been around a long time. But they had some little PV speakers outside and they were playing Crosscut Saw. You know, Albert King, I'm a Crosscut Saw. I'm like, oh man, well this is cool, and this van catches my eye, this van going down Beale Street, kind of slow, about to pull in. I look at the driver. It's Albert King, man. Albert, man, like what the hell? I'm listening to him. He's one of my favorite guitar players, and now he's driving in front of me. What the hell? It got better than that, Larry. He came to see us play. He knew Sherman. Like him and Sherman were talking like they knew each other. I said, oh my God. So
wow.
I got into him. It was going good, and I probably said something dumb to him, and I probably pissed him off or something, but he was still nice to me. He told me something. He said, you play good rhythm, son. I said, oh man, thank you so much. He told me I played good rhythm. So,
that's a pretty big compliment.
Yeah, coming from him, I said, whoa, nice. I had my guitar, and it was just a cheap Strat. It was like a Japanese Strat or something. And I asked him to play. I asked him if he'd sit in with Sherman, and he told me no, he didn't want to sit in. I wish he would have, because I'd never seen him play live, but he didn't feel like playing. But he sure come in there and freaked all of us out, because man, you playing in front of Albert King, man, that's like big stuff right there.
That's kind of frightening. I can remember a lot of stories by Stevie Ray Vaughan. Like, of course, everybody knows that was probably his biggest influence for his playing was Albert King, but he was influenced by a lot of different players. So there was, and you were in Memphis when that
was taking place. And he even went to a place called Ardent Studios, and I think Stevie and a lot of people had recorded there. We were walking in there one time. He didn't really finish his CD, but he was doing like some little demos for a CD that he later did, And I'm in there one time, and Steve Cropper walks by me in the hall. I'm like, oh my God, it's freaking Steve Cropper, man! What the hell? He used to play with Elvis.
Booker T and the MGs.
Booker T and the MGs, and I think he might have played with Elvis. So.
He played with the Blues Brothers as well.
Yeah, exactly. It was Steve Cropper, man. And he just, like, hello. I didn't even get introduce myself as just Steve Cropper. I'll see you later,
And that would have been sometime during the 90s, I imagine.
Yes, sir. Yeah, like early 90s, like probably 90, 91. As a matter of fact, speaking of them guys, we played at another place in Memphis called Huey's Burgers, a real good burger joint. It's probably still there, I would hope. But we're playing, and I don't know if you remember Larry Jolivet. I used to play with Sherman. I'm pretty sure he went to Canada with us.
On the bass?
Or Marcus Johnson. It might have been either or. I think it was Larry, though. I know it was Larry because Doug Dunn walked in there into the hamburger place, and it looked like he had a little buzz. He was kind of looking around, looking at the band. I don't know if he knew Sherman, but he looked at the bass player and he saw that Larry was playing upside down, and Larry would play with his left-handed also. He was left-handed, but he didn't change his strings around, so his high string was on the top, top of the neck. So Duck Dunn, like, he talks to him like, man, he wants to sit in. Duck wanted to sit in, so he just flipped the bass over, and it was a right-handed bass, So here I am jamming with Duck Dunn in Memphis, man. I'm like, bruh, I don't know if I deserve this. I play with all these unbelievable players here,
Where's my camera?
Yeah, exactly, man. It's same thing happened with Billy Gibbons. I met up with Billy Gibbons twice. He came to see us. This is many years later. He didn't come see us. He was recording again in Memphis, and I was playing with a little band from Lafayette called the Calico Cats. It was Cal Arnold. He used to play with Filet, a little Cajun band, kind of a big Cajun band around here back in the day. And man, let me not get lost. We were playing in Tunica at some casinos. Like, all there is in Tunica, Mississippi, is a lot of casinos and a few trailers for musicians to sit in. I shouldn't say that because I'm sure there's more than that in Tunica. But anyway, we up there playing, and I'm doing a real terrible version of Sharp Dressed Man because that was one of the songs we would do. And I look out at the bar. The little stage was like behind the bar, a little bitty tiny stage. I look out, and I see this guy with this weird looking green wool cap looking thing with the long beard, kind of like you, long beard. And it's freaking Billy Gibbons, man. I'm like, what the hell? Billy Gibbons is sitting at the bar watching us play ZZ Top. So I got to tell you this story, Larry, because this really, I could have stopped playing guitar after this. Of course, when we took the break, I mean, I'm a guitar player. I'll pretty much run up to him and say, oh my God, man, Billy Gibbons, man, nice to meet you. You know, I can't believe. He said, oh yeah, but you got a minute? I said, I got a minute for you. I said, yeah, what's the deal? He said, go get your guitar and show me that lick you played in that one of them blues songs you sang. I said, you got to be kidding me, man. He said, no, man, yeah. So I ran on the stage, got my guitar, and I said, by the way, that's not even my lick. That's a Buddy Guy lick. He said, I don't care. I don't know it. I said, okay. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe he didn't know this, but I think he was still pulling my leg. But I handed him the guitar after playing it, and then he handed it back. And I'm sure he was acting. He acted like he didn't get it. Well, I played it again, and then he got it. And he said, oh, man, I might put that in a ZZ Top song there. I said, well, man, take it. It's not my lick, you know. Like I said, it's Buddy Guy. But he was just so freaking cool, man. And that was about it on that. And the sad thing about that, our drummer was sitting there with a camera around his neck, and I'm handing my guitar back and forth to Billy Gibbons, and he said, one picture. After that, I requested a new drummer. I didn't get it, but I requested it.
Yeah, there's always these photos that we always seem to miss. It's kind of different now today because everybody has a camera that records video and it's in their phone.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. You know, when I think about that sometimes, like, how in the hell did Sherman book all these gigs up there? And we made all these gigs and we did everything we had to do without a damn phone. Yeah. Without a beeper. You know, we I guess people were more efficient back then. Now everybody was so damn relying on these little godlike devices here. I don't know.
Well, I remember having a calling card and stopping at a lot of payphones.
Yeah.
Especially on tour. Like, yeah. Just to make sure everything was good at the show you're going to. So the studios you mentioned in Memphis, are they still active or are they around?
Oh, I'm sure Arden has got to be going strong. I would imagine it was a big studio, and I think like a lot of big bands come through there, and I would imagine still. Be honest with you, I hadn't played in Memphis in it's been a while. They do like a little, I don't know if they still do that, but they were doing like a little Zydeco festival downtown in Memphis, at least 8 or 9 years ago. I don't know if the pandemic screwed that up or what, but I hadn't been asked to go to that thing in a good while. It's probably been 10 or 15 years, but that was pretty cool. You know, like all the little authentic blues clubs downtown, they would not have blues on that weekend. They would have Zydeco bands. You know, I think I went up there with Curly Taylor several years back. That's Jude Taylor's son. I don't know if Jude Taylor ever made it to Canada, but I know his music made it up there because he was in West Coast Blues magazine. You ever heard of that? Out of Canada. Yeah. And they did a review on one of his CDs that I was on, and they kind of talked good about me and Lil Buck, like doing good interplay together on the guitars, you know. But I would think Arden has got to still be going on, man. So
earlier you mentioned you had a friend who was collecting a lot of gear from those types of studios. That's why I found up here in Canada, especially, we just did some recording last year in a studio, which was a new studio, but during the pandemic, it took its toll on studios. Plus, with the computer technology that people are using to record with, I can remember when we met, there was no such thing as cell phones or auto-tune. So, are you noticing a bit of a change, like in Louisiana right now, as far as the beginning, during, and after the pandemic? Is it starting to turn around, or? It seemed like things were going on during the pandemic in Louisiana.
Oh, they were, man. It's a funny thing. There was a guy, in a town called Welch. It's probably about 40 miles west of here, off of Highway 90, you know, close to the Interstate 10. And this dude never shut down. I think he finally had to shut down, but I mean, they had to go and physically shut the dude down because he said, you know what, I just opened this damn place. He said, if people want to come out here and you know, they know they're risking it right now. You know, it was pandemic was fresh, you know, freshly produced. So they said, I'm gonna stay open. And a few people did, but I'll be honest with you, a lot of people, they did those. It might have even been Zoom calls. I heard of a few of them, the Cajun bands, since we all had to stop like that, and the Zydeco bands, they were doing stuff from their home. You probably might have saw some of that, and they were making just as much money or more money off of, I guess, donations. I don't know how that was go. I guess it was like a virtual tip jar or whatever. People would pay them, you know.
Right.
Some hops, they were making thousands during the pandemic like that, just playing it in their room, like with, I guess, a little green screen in the back or whatever was going on. Matter of fact, I don't know if you know Andre Theory, but I think he was doing a lot of that in California. I just played with him around May, and he put on his own little crawfish festival over there, and he had played the Brobridge Crawfish Festival here, and then I went with him to California, and he had the green thing set up in his little studio, and I asked him what that was about, and he said it was the pandemic. It was kept on playing, you know. And I don't know if you ever heard of him, but man, he's one of the top 12 piano note accordion players in the world, man. He's really good. He comes to Louisiana and scares the hell out of all these other accordion players, you know. And what they don't know, he's also a really great guitar player, a really great bass player. He can play. He's kind of like Prince. He can play everything, man. He's something else. He just sent me some pictures today. He picked up a really pretty, like a light maple Paul Reed Smith. Man, I've never seen one like this, like a one pickup Paul Reed Smith. And he bought a Blues DeVille for like $400. They're selling some really good gear in California right now for
everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
It's nuts.
Yes, you can find
the stuff we used to dream about buying. I think what has happened is after the pandemic, a lot of people passed away, especially the baby boomers. I remember my kid at the start of it saying, "Oh, it's the boomer remover pandemic," and I was like, my heart just sunk. I was like, but the fact of the matter is, we lost a lot of people around here. Like musicians are gone, and it was catastrophic to the music business. So that's kind of why we're doing this show now, is to touch base with the people that, you know, fought through it, and to see what they're doing and see what they've got for plans. Like some really well-known blues players don't even have a schedule right now. Still they don't even travel like they could. Yeah, that's a shame. Well, and it's not just that. I don't think it's a matter of them not wanting to travel. I think there's a lot of fear in clubs still. A lot of people are still a little bit leery about going out. I noticed in Texas and Louisiana, it didn't seem to have nearly the same effect on those states.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. And let me ask you this, talking about that. Did you hear about how North Dakota, they did not observe the pandemic thing at all, and didn't have much of a problem with it? Just went up there about 2 more girls ago with Curly Taylor, and they did a thing in Deadwood, not North Dakota, it was South Dakota. We went into Deadwood, South Dakota, and played up there, and the people were bragging on their governor because it's a woman, and she didn't play the pandemic, bro. She did not do it. She didn't observe it. She didn't mandate any kind of laws. Supposedly, you know, that's what they said. She'd ride up in on her horse with a pistol, and she'd go to meetings and said, "No, we're not doing that." You know, South Dakota, we're not gonna catch that blank.
Yeah, well, that's
I guess
because those sort of stories would not make it to the mainstream news either.
No, I didn't hear it on the news. I had to go to South Dakota to hear it. You know,
exactly.
I thought I thought kudos to them, because I mean, if it was real, well, whatever it was, it sure killed. I mean, it killed one of my classmates, man. A girl who's 51 years old, who was working at a hospital. She took I guess they insisted that she take the shot, and she had a booster shot, and then about a week and a half after the second booster shot, she was dead. She was gone, you know?
Yeah,
And
I've heard a lot of those.
Huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of those stories out there that the vaccine, and it's coming to light more and more at each day that the vaccine wasn't. Well, the way I see it is, you know, how long did it take Jonas Salk to figure out the cure for polio with a team that he was working on? It was like 20 years or something. So it's not something that happens in a few months, even if you have, and people were saying, well, the world had the internet and they could collaborate and work and solve the vaccine issue, which is true, but everybody was also working on the polio vaccine. They just didn't have the internet and the same communication. So, yeah, it is what it is, and it's tragic. It's kind of back to normal in the whole state, whereas in places in Canada, there's still people there. I was in a shop today, and they were wearing masks.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I'll find a mask today too, in a store somewhere, in a Super One store, a grocery store. He had his mask. I don't know if he was sick or just obsessive. Some people, What kills me is when you see them riding around in their own vehicles with a mask. I'm like, no, what the hell? What are you doing there?
Yeah.
Who's protecting in your car?
Yeah, I've seen that too, and kind of chuckled about it. I don't really get it, but there was so much drama behind the announcement of the pandemic and all the focus on